Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're looking at silent asthma.
Oh, yeah. Silent asthma.
And it's particularly interesting for us in the Asthma Friend community
Mm-hmm.
because it's asthma without the typical wheezing.
Yeah.
So we've got an article here from Asthma Friend all about it.
Okay.
And this is something that could be a real game changer for anyone who exercises regularly
Yeah.
or knows someone with asthma.
Absolutely. And you know what makes this deep dive even more insightful?
Does that?
The founder of Asthma Friend actually had their own journey with silent asthma.
Oh, wow.
So,
Yeah.
it adds this personal touch to the information we're going to be discussing today.
Yeah, and hearing about that experience just makes you realize how important it is to understand this condition.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about silent asthma, what exactly does that mean?
So basically, it's asthma without the wheezing.
Asthma without the wheezing.
Yeah.
How can you have asthma without wheezing?
Well, asthma is all about airway constriction.
Right.
So those air passages, they tighten up.
Yeah.
And that makes it harder to breathe. And usually we associate wheezing with that struggle to move air through those narrowed airways.
Yeah.
But sometimes the constriction isn't severe enough to actually cause that whistling sound.
So it's like, it's still a problem,
It is.
but you don't hear the noise.
Yeah, think of it like a slow leak in a tire
Okay.
versus a blowout.
Oh, okay, I see.
You might not hear that slow leak,
Right.
but it's still a problem.
Gotcha. So even without the wheezing, your airways are still constricted.
Yeah.
And you're not getting enough air.
That's right.
What are some of those subtle signs that we should be looking out for?
Well, the article mentions a few key things.
Okay.
A feeling of tightness in your chest, shortness of breath that kind of worsens gradually, unusual fatigue, and even dizziness.
Wow.
These might seem really mild at first, especially if you're used to pushing through discomfort during exercise.
Yeah.
Or just, having a busy day.
Right.
But it's so important if you start to notice any of these, especially if you have a history of asthma, to take them seriously.
So it's almost like recognizing those early warning signs,
The exacts.
even if they don't scream asthma attack.
Right.
Are there certain people who are more prone to silent asthma?
Absolutely. So, if you've had asthma for a long time, your body might become less sensitive to those constricted airways.
Oh, wow.
So think of it this way. Those nerves that usually trigger the wheezing reflex can actually get a bit worn out
Okay.
from constant inflammation. So even when airflow is restricted, you might not get that same urgent warning signal.
Like your body gets desensitized to the problem.
Exactly.
That's kind of concerning.
It is. Another risk factor is frequent use of those quick relief inhalers.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong, they're lifesavers in the moment,
Right.
but relying on them too often can mask those subtle symptoms
Right.
and delay a proper diagnosis of silent asthma. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a wound that needs stitches.
Oh, I see. So you're treating the symptom,
Yeah,
but not the root cause.
exactly.
What about athletes?
Yeah,
They're often pushing their bodies to the limit. Are they at higher risk as well?
definitely. Athletes, especially those in endurance sports,
Mm-hmm.
they have such a high tolerance for breathlessness
Right.
that they might just chalk up those early signs of silent asthma to, just exertion.
Okay.
And this can be incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
Because they might end up pushing themselves into a severe attack before realizing what's happening.
Right.
So it's really important for athletes to be aware of this as well.
So how do doctors even diagnose silent asthma?
Right.
If the classic wheezing isn't there, what are they looking for?
Well, lung function tests are key.
Okay.
They can objectively measure how well your lungs are working, even if you don't feel incredibly short of breath. The article mentions a few:
Okay.
the peak flow meter, spirometry, and pulse oximetry.
Okay, so let's break those down. What is each of those tests looking at?
Okay, so imagine you're trying to blow out those candles on a birthday cake.
Okay.
A peak flow meter measures how forcefully you can exhale.
Okay.
And that gives us an idea of your lung capacity.
Gotcha.
Spirometry is a bit more sophisticated.
Okay.
It measures both the amount and speed of air that you exhale.
Okay.
So it paints a more complete picture of your lung function.
Gotcha.
And lastly, pulse oximetry is a simple clip-on device that uses light to measure the oxygen levels in your blood.
Okay.
So it tells us if your breathing issues are impacting your body's oxygen intake.
So it's kind of like a toolbox for figuring out what's going on with your lungs,
Exactly.
even if you don't feel that classic wheezing.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's say you get diagnosed with silent asthma. What are those essential steps to managing it and preventing those sneaky attacks from happening in the first place?
Well, the article highlights 5 key strategies, and they're all super important.
Okay, so let's go through those.
Yeah.
What's the first one?
The first step is becoming incredibly aware of even the smallest changes in your breathing. So pay attention to any feelings of fatigue, chest tightness, any difficulty speaking, anything that just feels a bit off.
It's almost like becoming a detective for your own body,
Exactly.
looking for those subtle clues.
Yeah. And a peak flow meter can be your trusty sidekick.
Yeah.
Using it daily, even when you feel fine, can help you track those changes in your lung function
Right.
and can alert you to potential problems before they get out of hand.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
So what's the next step in our silent asthma management plan?
Step 2 is all about following your asthma action plan.
Okay.
This plan outlines which medications to take, when to take them, and what to do if your symptoms start to act up. Sticking to this plan, even when you're feeling great, is crucial for keeping your asthma under control.
It's like a personalized roadmap
Exactly.
for your asthma journey.
Yeah.
Now, what about recognizing those triggers? Things like allergens, cold air, even stress can set off asthma symptoms.
You're absolutely right, and those triggers can still cause silent asthma attacks even if you don't wheeze.
Okay.
So being aware of your personal triggers and taking steps to avoid them is key.
Gotcha.
Keep a journal, track your symptoms, and see if you can identify any patterns.
So understanding your body's unique sensitivities and being proactive.
Exactly.
I like that. So what's the next step?
Step 4 is all about those regular checkups with your doctor.
Okay.
Think of it like routine maintenance for your lungs.
Okay.
These visits allow your doctor to monitor your lung function, adjust your medications if needed, and address any concerns that you might have.
Like taking your car in for a tune-up,
Exactly.
but for your lungs.
For your lungs.
Makes sense.
Ah.
Okay, what about the final step?
The 5th and final step is all about being prepared for emergencies. So if you ever feel that sudden chest tightness or extreme fatigue, use your quick relief inhaler right away and get medical help. If your symptoms don't improve or they get worse, it's always better to err on the side of caution.
Absolutely. Having a plan and being prepared can make all the difference. Now, I want to go back to something we talked about earlier. The founder of Asthma Friend's personal experience with silent asthma. What can you tell us about their story?
Yeah, so as a child, they had, classic asthma attacks with wheezing, coughing, and visible difficulty breathing.
Right.
But as they got older, their asthma attacks actually became less obvious.
Interesting.
They started experiencing unusual fatigue and mild chest tightness,
Okay.
but they didn't initially connect those symptoms to asthma. It took some time for them to realize that they were actually experiencing silent asthma flare-ups.
That must have been pretty scary not knowing what was happening.
It was. And, their experience really underscores how important it is to pay attention to even subtle changes in your breathing patterns and to seek medical advice if something feels off, even if it doesn't fit that typical asthma picture.
It's a powerful reminder that asthma can change over time,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to be advocates for our own health.
Absolutely. It's really interesting how their story highlights that, asthma isn't a one-size-fits-all condition.
Right.
What works for one person might not work for another, and it can even change within the same person over time.
Yeah. That's a really good point. It's not just about, following some generic set of rules. It's about understanding your own body
Right.
and working with your doctor to figure out what works best for you.
Yeah.
So beyond those 5 key steps we just talked about, are there other things that people can do to really effectively manage silent asthma?
Absolutely. One thing that I find super helpful for my patients is keeping an asthma diary or using a smartphone app to track their symptoms, their triggers, and their medication use.
Oh, it's interesting.
Yeah, this kind of detailed tracking can really reveal patterns
Mm-hmm.
and help you and your doctor fine-tune your treatment plan.
So it's like becoming a data detective,
Exactly.
your own health.
The more information you have, the better.
Right.
You're more empowered to manage your condition.
So we've talked a lot about medication, but what about lifestyle changes?
Yeah,
Can those play a role in managing silent asthma?
absolutely. Regular exercise, for example, can actually improve lung function and reduce asthma symptoms. But here's the catch.
Okay.
It's super important to work with your doctor to develop a safe exercise plan
Yeah, okay.
because you don't want to challenge yourself and trigger an asthma attack,
Right.
especially if you're dealing with the silent variety.
So don't just, jump into that marathon training plan
Exactly.
without checking with your doctor first.
Exactly. You want to gradually increase your activity level while monitoring your symptoms closely and also, make sure you know how to properly use your rescue inhaler.
Right.
before, during, and after exercise.
Makes sense. What about diet?
Yeah.
I've heard that certain foods can trigger asthma symptoms. Is there any truth to that?
There is. There's some evidence to suggest that certain foods can worsen asthma symptoms for some individuals.
Mm.
There's no one-size-fits-all asthma diet.
Mm.
But some common culprits include things like dairy products, processed foods, and foods that are high in sulfites,
Okay.
like wine or dried fruits.
Okay.
It's worth experimenting with your diet a little bit
Yeah.
to see if eliminating certain foods makes a difference for you.
So another piece of that, personalized approach.
Exactly.
Paying attention to what works for you.
Exactly.
Now, we talked about stress earlier
Yeah.
as a potential trigger for asthma. Can you talk a bit more about how stress plays into this, especially with silent asthma?
Well, when we're stressed, our bodies release certain hormones that can cause inflammation in the airways.
Okay.
And this can make them more sensitive and reactive.
Right.
And this can actually lead to an asthma attack even if you don't experience wheezing.
Wow.
And you might just attribute those symptoms to stress or feeling a bit run down.
So managing stress becomes an essential part of managing silent asthma.
Absolutely. Things like deep breathing exercises, meditation, yoga can be incredibly helpful in reducing stress and managing those asthma symptoms.
Right. It's about finding healthy ways to cope
Exactly.
and what works for you.
Exactly.
Now, I know you're a big advocate for the Asthma Friend community, and we've mentioned it a few times already. For those who might not be familiar, can you tell us a little bit more about what they offer and why it's such a valuable resource?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Asthma Friend is an incredible online platform that's dedicated to supporting people with asthma and their loved ones. They have a wealth of information about asthma, including articles, blog posts, and even a podcast.
Oh, wow. I love that they have a podcast. It's so helpful to hear from experts.
I know.
Get those different perspectives on managing asthma.
Absolutely. And the best part is that all of their content is created by people who really understand asthma, whether they're medical professionals, researchers, or individuals living with the condition themselves. They also have a fantastic online community where people can connect with others who get it, share their experiences, ask questions, and just find support.
That sense of community can be so powerful,
It is.
especially when you're dealing with a chronic condition like asthma.
It can feel very isolating.
It can. So
Yes.
knowing that you're not alone,
Yeah.
that there are other people out there facing similar challenges can make a world of difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
For our listeners who are part of the Asthma Friend community, what are some of the benefits they might find by being more active in the online forums or participating in events?
Well, online forums are a great place to connect with others who understand what it's like to live with asthma,
Right.
especially the silent kind. You can share your experiences, ask questions, get advice, offer support to others. It's a very safe and welcoming space.
Yeah.
You don't have to explain yourself or feel like you're being judged.
Like having a built-in support system.
Exactly. They also host regular online and in-person events, workshops, and webinars. And these events cover a wide range of topics, from the latest research on asthma treatments to practical tips for managing your symptoms and just improving your quality of life.
So it's not just about information.
No,
It's about building connections
Yeah.
and finding that support.
exactly. And I think that's what makes Asthma Friend so special. It's more than just an information hub. It's a true community.
I couldn't agree more. So if you're listening and you're not already part of the Asthma Friend community, I highly encourage you to check them out. You can find them online at website address or search for Asthma Friend on your favorite social media platform.
Yeah, and be sure to check out their podcast, too. They have some fantastic episodes covering all sorts of asthma-related topics, and I know you'll find them informative and inspiring.
Definitely. Now, before we move on to our final thoughts, I just want to remind everyone that we've been discussing information from an article by Asthma Friend, and it's always a good idea to consult with your doctor for personalized medical advice.
That's right. This deep dive is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice.
Right. Okay, so with that said, let's wrap up our conversation with some final thoughts about silent asthma and the importance of really being an advocate for your own health.
I think one of the most important things we've talked about today is, the importance of self-advocacy, especially with silent asthma.
Yeah.
It's just so easy to dismiss those subtle symptoms, especially when you don't have those obvious warning signs like wheezing.
Right. It's easy to think, oh, it's nothing.
Yeah,
I'm
but,
not fine.
but ignoring those little whispers from our bodies can have some serious consequences.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling of not wanting to bother their doctor,
Yeah.
or maybe feeling like they're being a hypochondriac if they bring up every little thing.
Yeah.
But you're right, when it comes to our health, speaking up is crucial.
Absolutely. If something doesn't feel right, trust your instincts.
Yeah.
And don't hesitate to get medical advice.
And I think it's about recognizing that we are the experts on our own bodies.
Mm-hmm.
We know when something is off,
Yeah.
even if we can't always put it into words.
Right.
And a good doctor will listen to those concerns and work with us to figure out what's going on.
Absolutely. Think of your healthcare providers as partners in your health journey.
Mm-hmm.
They rely on us to give them those observations and insights so they can make informed decisions.
So being open and honest, even about symptoms that seem small, is really important.
Absolutely.
Well, this whole conversation has been a real eye-opener for me. I feel like I understand asthma so much better now.
Good.
And I'm definitely going to be paying closer attention to those, subtle signs from my own body.
That's great. And for anyone listening who's concerned about their respiratory health, please don't wait. Reach out to your doctor. Early detection and proactive management are so important for living well with asthma, whether it's silent or not.
Absolutely. And we've talked a lot about Asthma Friend today. For anyone looking for more information, support, or that sense of community,
Yeah.
we really encourage you to check them out. They're a fantastic resource
They are.
for anyone who's impacted by asthma.
Absolutely. They're making a real difference.
Yeah. So that wraps up our deep dive into silent asthma. We hope this has been helpful for you.
Yeah.
And that you feel a little bit more empowered to manage your health.
Yeah. Remember, knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
And understanding this condition is the first step towards, taking control and living a healthier, happier life.
Absolutely. And if you found this deep dive helpful, please share it with anyone who might benefit.
Yeah, spread the word.
That's all for this episode of The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Stay curious and stay well.